Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be just diving in a little bit to talk about the fascinating subject of narcissist. And in this video there's all kinds of different narcissistic behaviors, but there's one common energetic pattern that they all share. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you later on in this video. If you're new to my channel, I am a clairvoyant psychic. I've been studying the human energy field for almost 30 years now, and I like to see what kind of human behaviors and patterns can really influence or interfere with your ability to really function energetically and spiritually at your highest potential. So why is that really important right now? Well, we are going through a great time of change. We're living in a time that's unprecedented, that we have never witnessed before, but these little niggly patterns can interfere. So I'm going to be talking to those of you who may think that you are experiencing narcissistic behaviors and patterns that you really want to work on, as well as those of you who love others or maybe not love others so much that have narcissistic patterns. So I'm not an expert on narcissism. I am not a therapist. I am not a mental health professional, but I am a clairvoyant psychic who can see the human energy field. So I will be very excited to share with you about the energetic patterns that I notice, because what ultimately we want to do is to be able to heal those energy patterns, right? I specifically picked up from Dr. Google, from the internet, how is narcissistic personality disorder defined? And it is defined as narcissistic personality disorder, or also known as NPD, is a complex personality disorder that is often misunderstood. So I really hope to shine a light on that a little bit more. When you think of someone with NPD, we often think of them as having a grandiose sense of self, a deep need for admiration, and difficulty empathizing with someone else, and they most certainly cannot stand to be criticized. So that's probably the one pattern that we understand the most. But a behavioral trait with someone who has NPD can appear charming, self-assured on the surface. While these charismatic traits may look like confidence, they may often, and they do, really mask some deep-seated insecurities, rather than coming from a place of self-esteem. As a nurse and as a psychic and as a spiritual person that can tend to see the light in you no matter what's going on in your life, no matter whether you're heavily laden with narcissistic tendencies or not, from whenever spirit is showing me the perspective of anyone, it shows me that perspective of being a beautiful soul. So I'm going to share this perspective from as much of a neutral perspective as I can, even though for those of you I know who've been hurt or harmed by someone with these tendencies may not feel like you have much room for a little compassion or offer much room for growth. But hopefully I'll just shine a little bit more of a light. But especially when you know of the energetic patterns that they all share, I think that's really going to help you to have a little more of an understanding. Now, I did not know that there were different types of narcissists. We most certainly, when I was in nursing school, we did not learn about this. In fact, this is kind of a term that's fairly new, probably in the last 5 years. And it's kind of at an all-time high, an epidemic height, where it seems like everybody's being called a narcissist. Or for me, who's working as a spiritual person to help people to heal and to self-recognize areas that they can improve on. Often they're saying, you know, I have to deal with a narcissist. My mother was a narcissist. My father was a narcissist. My siblings are narcissists. My spouse is a narcissist. The children are, you know, they're like, my mom's a narcissist. Like, it's just at an all-time high. And what I do know about most things that are cycling through our life. This is going to go by the wayside, and then we're going to have another term that we're going to use later. But I did look up, and so let me just kind of look at my notes about the different types of narcissists. If any of these sound familiar to you, either for yourself and you want to get help or for someone else, then you can do your own deep dive. So first off, the grandiose narcissist. So the grandiose narcissist exhibits grandiosity. That means that they have a sense of self-importance. They have a need, really needy to be admired, and they lack empathy. They really aren't able to think about other people. They often have an inflated sense of their own abilities, their own accomplishments, and their own achievements, and they need other people around them to constantly be feeding that. When I was in nursing school, one of my 3-month clinical rounds was at a mental health hospital. I was assigned to this one young man. He was probably in his 20s, and really, really super nice guy. I was assigned to him for weeks on end, so we might play tennis on the grounds, we might go for walks, definitely have lots of conversations. Really interesting guy. I thought, wow, he's accomplished so much in life. And I remember as a naive nursing student going to my instructor saying, why is this person in the hospital? Like, I just didn't get it. And then the person said that they have delusions of grandeur. So that's what they called it at the time. Now they call it narcissistic personality disorder, but then they called it delusions of grandeur. So what happened was he was considered a danger to society. And the reason why he was considered a danger to society, because he was so convincing of his grandiosity, of all of his accomplishments in life, that he could easily fool others and take advantage of them, and could eventually hurt and harm others in that way. So he literally was locked up in a mental hospital, and because he had delusions of grandeur, or that grandiose narcissism. All right, the next one is vulnerable narcissistic. And so it can be hard to recognize this person because it's covert or fragile in their narcissism. These individuals may appear shy or reserved, but they can have a strong sense of entitlement and grandiosity. They can be hypersensitive to criticism and rejection, and they may react with anger or shame when their superiority is questioned. Now, I will say in this generation, what I've noticed is all of us have some level of narcissistic behavior. So all of you, while you're listening to this, it's like, be open-minded to take a look at that, so that you can start to correct it. All right. Malignant narcissism. This subtype combines narcissistic traits with antisocial behavior, aggressiveness, lack of empathy, very manipulative, deceitful, and they will exploit others for their own gain. So a lot of you are very familiar with that malignant narcissist. Cerebral narcissist, we know a lot of those. This type of narcissist emphasizes their intellect and knowledge. They will boast about their academic achievements, intelligence, professional success, and they tend to look down on others whom they perceive as less intelligent. The one thing that I was thinking about, it was last year in the news, and this guy had his doctorate in sociopathic studies, that they may hurt or harm, even murder others for their sociopathic needs. Anyway, it was this person that had their doctorate in studying this and actually ended up taking the life of 3 other people. And here he was, a professor at a university level. And so that would be what's called the cerebral narcissist. A somatic narcissist derive their self-worth from their physical appearance, their sexual attractiveness, their physical prowess. So they may constantly seek admiration, attention for their appearance, and use their physical attractiveness to manipulate others. Collective narcissist applies to groups and organizations rather than individuals. The collective narcissists believe their group or their nation is unique and superior to others. So we will see a lot of authoritarian narcissists in this way. They demand excessive admiration and recognition for their collective achievements. And then communal narcissist is number 7, the last one that's described. Altruistic, they can appear altruistic and caring on the surface, but they seek admiration, validation because they are self-sacrificing, and and supposed altruism. They may use their acts of generosity to manipulate and control. All right, manipulation, control, have to have a lot of attention, can't stand to be criticized, always need to be up front and center for the most part, except for the vulnerable narcissist. All right, so we know kind of all this. I encourage you to do a deep dive, but there's one energy pattern that they all share, and I promise you I will get to this, but let's kind of talk about where are these patterns? Where do these patterns start from? Well, the one thing that I've been curious about, so I've really been studying a lot, but the one thing I was curious about was, our great-grandparents or our grandparents or our parents, like several generations back. Yeah, there were definitely some of these narcissistic type behaviors, but not as many as we're seeing today. There's this sense about this generation. We've really grown and cultivated a generation of people, I call it, who contemplate their navel, who really focus on self and self needs. So in our older generations, we were really taught, whether, we went to church, it was some religious structures, no matter, what culture you were attending church or mosque with. So you would learn how to be in a group. You were taught how to think of others. You were taught how, think of yourself, but how is that going to impact the group? So in those older generations, we were really taught that way. Or in war, it was like, war, when they talk about, really brings people together. That's true, because you go beyond just thinking about yourself. So in those generations, sometimes you spent a lot of time out in the woods, out in nature by yourself, kind of contemplating life. Your friends have hurt you, but maybe you got bullied at school, but you really did a lot of self-contemplation. You really came up with your own answers. You really worked to find ways to work differently within the group. So there were lots of ways. You didn't have really a lot to process. You might want to tell your parents you're sad, and they're like, well, you're sad, so what are you going to do about it? So you had to really kind of figure these things out on your own. But in the generation that we have now, we have this constant noise that's coming in, whether it's from television, and we know this, from looking at your phone, we know all this, but also being overly praised. We may have parents that are like, you're doing a great job. Oh, you had a sad day at school. Oh, like somebody said to me the other day, they said they went to their grandchild's graduation from the 5th grade or something like that. And they're like, when did they start doing caps and gowns and graduation from 5th grade? But I was just kind of laughing, because it's like, yeah, my kids kind of grew up in that generation where it's like, yeah, we always wanted to uplift them. We wanted our children to feel better. We wanted them to feel happy. I remember the first time when my son, he was 18 and he was learning to live on his own. And I remember he said, Mom, this is the first time I've ever had to survive in life. I'm loving it, because I wasn't always so quick to jump in and help him problem solve, that he was able to have that time to kind of problem solve for himself. And, it wasn't always perfect. It isn't always perfect now, and I'm not always perfect, but I definitely can see where I can contribute to this generation. All right. So in a lot of ways, that was then, and this is now. And then how are we going to correct this? This is not what I'm going to be talking about in this video today, because I'm just going to talk about the energetics. Let's see. So signs and symptoms. It's like, belief that they're separate, that they're special, they're above other people. I mean, they're better looking, they're more powerful, they're more successful. Um, they feel they can't emphasize with other people's needs. As a matter of fact, it's like, oh my gosh, I just can't deal with your emotions right now. It's like, I've got a lot I have to think about. So there's a lot of that, and you can look that up on the internet. But what happens is, what is the common theme? So I'm going to jump right in here. The common theme that I see in the human energy field of anyone who has strong narcissistic behaviors is that they can only think of themselves. They can't think of themselves in terms of a group. So the energetic piece that I notice when I'm working with my intuitive psychic developing students is that we've almost forgotten how to resource ourselves from connecting with the earth by grounding and bringing up that strong, solid connection of earth energy. So we're going to draw upon that incredible, rich, creative source of earth energy. And then we're going to draw upon that beautiful elixir of light from the cosmic energy. And we're going to resource ourselves with wisdom and high knowledge from checking in with our higher self. And we're going to resource ourselves from that really high level of high knowledge from the supreme wisdom, the great creator. And once you learn how to source yourself from the earth, from the cosmos, from your spiritual connection with your higher self and the divine, you learn about just how much you are loved from all of those connections. You learn how to be satisfied and content with your relationship with yourself. You no longer need to resource yourself from other people. You have that attention from God. You have that attention from your higher self. You have that attention from the guides and the angels. You have that attention from the earth, from animals, from plants and trees. You have all of that attention. You don't need, you're not waiting in line for another human being to give you that attention. Now, the beauty about it is once you learn, and it does not matter if you have high narcissistic tendencies or you don't have narcissistic tendencies at all, you're going to benefit from this one energetic behavior and one energetic solution, and that's learning how to connect and resource from those extended energies of light. So the one common theme that narcissists hold that I see is they don't know how to resource for themselves, and so they have to get their source from other human beings. And as we all know, if you have to be in a relationship, you can only be in a relationship with another human. You in that relationship, and you have to start another relationship, you hunger to have that attention from other human beings. You're filling up your gas tank with their energy. I'm talking about if you're a narcissist. It's like you take energy cords and you are like filling up your spiritual tank, your energetic tank from other people. You have not been taught, you don't know how to resource yourself in other ways. So usually if someone has narcissistic tendencies, it usually comes from childhood where you may not have gotten your needs met from a parent. And so you needed to learn how to manipulate or behave in a way that you could get that parental attention. And so it starts at a very young age, and then that just carries over into all of your other relationships. You weren't taught how to connect with the God of your heart. You weren't taught how to connect with the earth. You weren't taught how to have those personal spiritual experiences. What I call, often I will say, oh, I see you have a pattern here that God is an afterthought. So what do I mean by God as an afterthought? It's like, okay, you've fallen down, your knees are bloodied, you know, everything around you's falling apart, you know, and it's like, oh, maybe I haven't talked to God yet. Maybe I should try that. And I'm laughing because I know exactly what that's like, you know, where it's like, oh, all right, my problems are a real mess right now. Maybe I can talk to the creator and maybe that'll help, you know, and often you're crying. I call it my down on my knees moment. So, but for the narcissist, they've watched their parents manipulate others to get their needs met. They've watched their parents need a lot of attention on a constant basis. And so then they just grow up thinking, well, that's how people behave, right? They don't know any different. And so often the narcissist does not recognize their narcissistic behavior. They don't know that they're doing it. And this is part of the issue because a lot of people, I'm just going to say, to me, the ultimate is the difference is a narcissist resource from humans around them, non-narcissistic behavior and supportive behaviors resource themselves from their connections with their own soul, with the earth and with the cosmos. So I just want to say that even a narcissist can improve in these behaviors. It can improve by just learning how to run your energy and learning how to meditate, learning how to resource from spirit, from your soul. Now, on my website, I do have free meditations that you can download, you can listen to, but that's not the only source. There was it's a particular app that I want to make sure that you know about because it offers such a big variety. I think it's called the Insight Timer. The Insight Timer. So what it can do is it gives you a lot of lists of different meditations, and then you can just set the timer for how long you want to meditate, and it'll show you all the people in the world that are meditating at the same time. So the one single trait that all narcissists share, it doesn't matter what type of narcissistic behavior you have, is you must resource yourself by taking advantage of other people and sucking dry their energy so that you have this robust energy to draw from. And if you're taken away, if your oxygen supply is taken away because you are isolated, you know, or if your energy supply is taken away because everybody's ignoring you and nobody's giving you the time of day and nobody's giving you any attention, then you're going to have a really hard time if you're a narcissist. So I just promise you, if you learn how to source yourself from spirit and from the nature of Mother Earth, you're going to slowly wean off that need to take energy from other people. Now, what can happen if let's say you're the person who loves someone with narcissistic behaviors, and we all are going to have at least one person in our life that we love that has narcissistic tendencies. That what can happen is when you're learning how to resource yourself and you stop allowing the narcissistic pattern to draw from your energy, they're going to start flipping a gasket because they need your energy. They don't know what to do without your energy. So what can happen, and that's where all these narcissistic behaviors come from, where they're trying to kind of knock your feet out from underneath you, because if they can get you knocked down, then they can draw from your energy again. So it's going to be really important for those of you who love a narcissist, stay up on your pineal, keep resourcing yourself, have a really strong boundary in your energetic field, and don't let them take you down. I know it's easier said than done, but you can cultivate it. Our students work on these kinds of things all the time. And then once you've resourced strongly, it's second nature to you. You can move through the world and it's like, oh, there's a narcissist. So that's okay. You know, you can choose to love them anyway, or you can choose to say, hey, I'm not going to engage with that pattern. Anyway, I think that all of us could talk about this pattern, but what I know is that it's an epidemic right now in our lives, and we created it. We created this epidemic. You know, we're disconnected. Our families are disconnected. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can correct this, and I invite you to go look it up. There's so much great information out there, but first and foremost, whether you have narcissistic tendencies or not, everyone can benefit from being in the flow of your own healthy energy field. And you let you live, and you let me live, and everybody lets each other live and be themselves. And we can grow into that. And why? Because we are moving into higher states of consciousness where you won't be able to deny your spiritual connections any longer. So, comment section. We are stronger together than we are apart. So, I'm going to encourage no big narcissistic bashing if I can ask for that. But if you can write in there, hey, I had narcissistic tendencies, and this is how I help myself get on the other side of it. Or I love someone who has narcissistic tendencies, and this is how I learned how to not let them take my energy anymore. Let's do some positive things, some uplifting things, some healthy ways. Let's learn from each other, from our collective experience. All right, everyone, take care, and I just can't wait to read your lessons and your tips and your experiences so that we can all grow from it. All right, everyone, take care. I look forward to seeing you on the next teaching call.